When it comes to Dumbledore and the Time Turner, fans often ask why he didn't use it to discover which objects Voldemort turned into Horcruxes. This question stands out from typical time travel debates. Like, why didn't Ron use a time turner to go back and stop himself from leaving the tent? Because it doesn't suggest changing the past in a way that would alter major events. Instead, it focuses on observation, watching Tom Riddle's actions without interference. On the surface, this sounds like a solid plan. However, there are major issues with the idea that make it nearly impossible in practice. 1. The enormous time gap. First, let's consider the timeline. Tom Riddle created his Horcruxes over several decades, from the 1940s through the 1960s. By the time Dumbledore began searching for them around 1996, he would have needed to go back over 50 years to see each key moment in Riddle's life leading up to those creations. Unlike Hermione's use of the time turner to attend extra classes in the same day, Dumbledore would have to live through those years in real time, constantly following Tom to catch him at the exact moment of each Horcrux creation. For example, to witness the creation of the Diary Horcrux, Dumbledore would need to be there when Tom was 16 and open the Chamber of Secrets. Then he'd need to watch as Tom manipulated his friend, Hepzibah Smith, to get hold of Hufflepuff's cup and Slytherin's locket in his 20s. The extensive timeline means Dumbledore couldn't just pop back for a few hours. He'd have to live a half-century all over again. Number 2. Dumbledore's fame and high profile. Following his duel with Grindelwald in 1945, Dumbledore became a household name in the wizarding world. By the 1940s, he was already widely respected as a powerful and wise wizard. Trying to keep a low profile while tracking Voldemort without being noticed would have been nearly impossible. Tom Riddle, already suspicious and hyper-aware, would likely sense someone following him. If he spotted Dumbledore, he would be instantly wary, potentially making him even more secretive. Imagine Dumbledore showing up in Little Hangleton, where Riddle's family lived, or spying on him at Hogwarts. Tom might question his professor's intentions and avoid making any moves if he felt watched. And if Voldemort caught on to Dumbledore's presence, he might change his plans or become even more guarded with his secrets, making it even harder for Dumbledore to gather information. 3. Multiple Dumbledores complicating the timeline. If Dumbledore ever lost track of Riddle or missed an important moment, he might need to go back again, creating multiple versions of himself in the same timeline. This could lead to dangerous consequences, as the Ministry of Magic strictly controls time turner usage to avoid paradoxes like this. If one Dumbledore version were hiding in Little Hangleton to observe Riddle's family, while another was at Hogwarts teaching, and yet another was monitoring Tom in the 1950s, the timeline could become tangled and chaotic. The presence of multiple Dumbledores could create confusion, not only for others but for Dumbledore himself, who would be aware of the risks of potentially interacting with his past self. Number 4. Destruction of the Time Turners during the Battle of the Department of Mysteries and Order of the Phoenix. The entire stock of Time Turners was destroyed. This event meant that even if Dumbledore had seriously considered this plan, it would be impossible by 1996. At the time, Time Turners were thought to be completely wiped out, with no other magical devices known to travel that far back in time. So, even if Dumbledore had come up with this plan later in the series, by the time he'd assembled his full understanding of Voldemort's Horcruxes, he no longer had the option to use a time turner. Number 5. The limits of time turners. Finally, even if there had been time turners available, they were only intended for short, controlled periods of time travel, like Hermione's use to attend extra classes within the same day. The Ministry of Magic regulated them strictly, with serious restrictions on how far they could go back to prevent instability in the timeline. To travel 50 years into the past would be beyond the capabilities of any known time turner. Even if someone attempted such a journey, The consequences of pushing a timer beyond its limits are unpredictable and dangerous. This limitation wasn't just about Ministry control. It reflected the inherent magical restrictions of the devices themselves. So, while the idea of Dumbledore observing Tom Riddle to locate the Horcruxes sounds reasonable, the barriers are simply too high. Dumbledore's best approach was what he ultimately chose, piecing together Voldemort's actions and psychology to deduce likely Horcruxes. Though time travel might seem like an easy solution, in the wizarding world, it comes with limitations, risks, and consequences that even Dumbledore couldn't ignore. Thanks for watching. Plus one like if you enjoyed this video. If you liked a Harry Potter video in detailed, plus visit the channel.